So we are not, yeah, we can do live transcription. I also am going to share my screen. Can you all tell me, do you see the presenter view or do you see just land your dream job with subtitles?
It's perfect. It's right where it needs to be. Yeah, no
Okay,
presenter view, full
great,
presentation.
awesome.
Okay.
All right, now we play the waiting game. Come one, come all.
Some folks were still just transitioning, and we still have a few that are in the session from Peleus, so they may be coming over momentarily. By the way, that was a fantastic networking opportunities. Thank you so much for participating with that. That was really great. I think everybody had a lot of fun in there. And by the way, you're muted. That's okay. I do it too.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot more than the speed dating one-on-one that a lot of that you'll see in a lot of online conferences this year.
Exactly.
So that's good
Exactly.
because then everybody could contribute. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and just put some notes into the main lobby and let folks know that we're here and getting ready so we can get all started momentarily. And let's pause recording until we're ready to start. We are indeed. Thank you.
That answers the question. Okay. Um, so it is 2:30, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Um, Hello, everybody. I just want to welcome you to my seminar on how to land your dream job. Now, I just want to give you the caveat that if your dream job is, I just want to be the DP on a movie or I want to be a famous Broadway star, Kevin Acosta, PM me. But the seminar is focused on how to find a great job in the tech industry. So I'm going to talk a lot about cybersecurity, but a lot of the items we're going to discuss are also transferable to programmers, data science, management, et cetera, as well. So before we get started, a little bit about me. You can see my bio online, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. However, I am a cybersecurity engineer with NBC Universal. I landed that about 3 months after graduating from CSUDH in 2020. It was my very first job in the cybersecurity industry, so I spent a ton of hours conglomerating a lot of information, which I hope you all will find very useful, and I'm looking forward to paying it forward to you. So listed here on the screen is a highlight reel of my experience related to this talk. I'm not going to read it to you, but let's just go ahead and jump right in. So here are the things you expect to get out of this talk. Okay, there's a lot, so I'm going to be going pretty fast. So hold on to your bootstraps, nerd joke, and here we go. So before we get into the nitty gritty, I'm going to cover a couple of hacks which you will not only find useful in optimizing your time during your job hunt, but it's also going to prove valuable in your everyday life, especially even after you join the workforce. So I thought that it was really important to mention these things. The first one being growth mindset, which is probably the #1 most important thing that I can emphasize for you. You want to look at what growth mindset is looking at things as challenges instead of setbacks. To find a way to turn something which initially feels negative into something positive. For example, you bomb a test and you fail this test, and so you go home and you beat yourself up about it and you cry, and that's fine. Crying is great. It serves a great purpose, but then you want to think to yourself, okay, well, what was it about my failure that made me fail, and how can I do better next time? Turn it into something positive. Manifest your future. When you're turning things into positive things, you dictate how other people treat you as well, and it reduces your chances of discouragement. So it's super important to keep that growth mindset in mind as you move forward in your life. Next, you want to reinforce your self-worth. So I know it sounds like, everybody's like, oh, the self-help books, how cheesy, but it's not cheesy, it's self-care. Okay, this is important because how you feel about yourself is going to subconsciously translate to your interviewers. People are going to know. So faking confidence isn't good enough. You actually have to convince yourself of your value. And that's an individual thing that I can't teach you how to do. You're going to have to explore that on your own, but it's super necessary. Okay? Next thing, why job hunting is a paying job. You're thinking, no, it's not. I don't get paid to look for a job. Well, you got to wrap your mind around it this way. The better you get at it, the more prepared you are. And the more prepared you are, the better chances you are of landing a job that gets higher pay, which covers the hours that you spent working on the thing. Um, so for instance, if you don't spend the time on it, then you're going to waste your time later. Okay, it's time is money. Next skill is use your hobby as a template. So explore to yourself, why does insert your hobby here, let's say gaming, matter more to me than finding a job? What is it about gaming that draws you to it? Then you want to take that thing that you enjoy about it and translate that to your job hunt. How can you get those same things out of your schooling, out of your job hunt that you get out of your hobby? As soon as you can hack that, you're golden. And finally, another very important thing is rewarding yourself. So you want to celebrate those small victories. Rewards are incentives, right? Think of it like a game. All of this is just like a game. You want to level up, right? You get XP for fighting the boss. So maybe your XP is a little boba after you did your daily tasks. Okay. Moving on to the next thing is managing your time. So if some of you were in the STEM Advantage panel earlier this morning, Leanne mentioned there's no such thing as having the time. You make the time. Um, and what I mean by that is we're all, oh, I'm too busy for this, I'm too busy for that. But you make the choice on how you want to spend your time. So you know how much time you have. You just have to know how to manage it. Okay. It might seem like a lot of work up front, but it evens out because you can either spend the time to do it thoroughly the first time. It might take a little bit longer than you want, but if you don't, you can spend it even longer not getting jobs and not getting paid and wasting your time. Okay. So it's worth it. Another way to hack is spend 15, 20 minutes a day on your interview prep. That's it. Instead of 2.4, 2.5 hours once a week, I know a lot of us like to chunk our homework into that. Um, Let me tell you, if you get out of class and you're like, okay, I'm just going to, hit the computer lab for 15, 20 minutes before I go to the parking lot to my car and drive home, traffic anyway, boom, you're done. It feels like less work, keeps your head in the game. You're always ready. Okay, you can even make a list, you can schedule it, you can build a structure to help yourself with this. Okay, so next hack is your school experience. Extracurriculars, clubs, events, they look great on a resume. They connect you with people. You learn transferable skills that are going to carry you into the rest of your life. Um, okay, next thing, it's not about the grade, but it also is. Okay, so here's why it's not. Traditional schooling has put an emphasis on the grade, and in doing so, we lose the fact that what we're really at school about is to learn the material. We want to learn this material um, because it's going to translate into your job force later. Honors looks great on an entry level resume. If it's between you and another guy and you have the same skill set, but you have honors and he doesn't, guess who's getting the job? Okay, so don't kill yourself over your grades. Learning the material is more important, but also it's something to achieve because it will help you in your career goals. Okay, I know y'all are looking up test answers and that's fine, but also memorize them, make your time worth it. You'll have to learn it eventually. Better to do it once than relearn it outside of school and waste your time. Okay. Group projects. Your peers will remember you after school is done. And if you're good, they could hook you up. I can tell you some people that I went to school with who I saw exceeding at certain things. I've worked on getting them interviews. I've given them, referrals. So it's important, these group projects. Be the Matthew McConaughey. All right. Also, teachers can get you jobs and they know people, okay? So don't waste your schooling experience. Finally, always do the extra credit. Even if you're doing well, it allows peace of mind. Always do the extra credit because front loading is really good in case anything comes up, gets difficult, you suddenly have a surgery or you get in an accident, your grade won't suffer. So even if you don't do it, just always do the extra credit. All right, now on to the fun stuff. The first thing you want to do in preparation for your job search is create your branding. Think of it like you're an influencer, right? When you create your brand, then it says, this is me. It tells them how to see you. How do you want to present yourself? How do you want your headshot, your color scheme? Do you want to be super professional or a little bit casual? Your dream job is going to inform all of these decisions for you. And then you can carry that into your materials, such as business cards. I can't tell you how important business cards are and how few people actually do this. Put your face on it. I know, hey, Leah, but what about deep fakes? What about, privacy? Um, if that really concerns you, don't. But my experience has been you won't get lost in a crowd of faceless resumes and faceless who was that guy I talked to? I have his business card, but I don't remember which one it was. And then, so put your face, put your LinkedIn, make a notes area so people can take notes on what they talk to you about when you give them your business card. Make it stand out, and this is where your branding comes in, right? You want to make it a little different. For instance, my branding is this deep mauve kind of color that you see, and white text. Also, in my business cards, it's a dark with white. So you want to be thinking about these things. In addition, your personal social media, clean it up, make it private before you get the job, even before you get the interview. Oftentimes, employers are looking up, they're stalking you online. They're going to see what you put up there. And that one bad social media post could cost you the game. So why didn't I put website on here? Well, first of all, have fun securing it while the rest of us are job hunting. Secondly, nobody's really going to look at it anyway. It's a little outdated to have your own personal website nowadays, unless you're using it to demonstrate your skills. LinkedIn is good enough. Speaking of LinkedIn, fill out every section, gather recommendations and skills. That's super important. That's probably one of the top ones. And you don't only want to gather them, you want to offer them in return, right? With anything you do in life, it should be a give and take. You should never be just taking or just giving. So offer in return for anyone who writes a recommendation for you. You can write one for them. Skills, can they endorse you? Your about section, your description. This is your one paragraph catch all cover letter. Make it good. Use business speak. Use this as a way to learn business speak. Business speak is actually a thing, and you gain respect by knowing how to articulate your words. Photo, banner, make sure it looks like you. Add that searching for job banner. Go into the job section. Make sure that you have it toggled on that you're searching for a job. Recruiters can find you this way. Write a post about your accomplishments occasionally, then pin it. Okay. Then what happens is that it's a subtle way for when people visit your LinkedIn, they can tell, oh, X, Y, and Z are strengths of this person. Also, in the same breath, make a post about that you're looking for work and what you have to offer. Ask your connected friends to repost. This is how I got hooked into an interview with NBC Universal and ultimately landed the job, was because one of my friends posted, hey, I have this really ambitious friend who has something to offer. Here's her post. And I got solicited by the VP. So you never know. Um, Activity, encourage and celebrate others. Target posts, which might be seen by job employers. We all lift each other up. We all get what we want. Okay. Experience. Put something here, even if it was an internship or hands-on experience with a tool in class. You don't have to say it was from a class. If you have experience with the tool, you have experience with the tool. Okay. Education, that's obvious. We're all in college. Licenses, certifications. If you don't have any, you can do a few LinkedIn learning courses so it's not empty. Don't stress too much about certifications. I think a lot of emphasis in academia gets put around certifications and they're not as necessary as you would think. Excuse me. Volunteering. This is where the extra credit and extracurriculars come in handy that I talked about earlier. Projects. Volunteered for Toro Hat. Congratulations, you're a conference staff. Honors and awards. STEM Advantage Scholar, other grants and scholarships, Dean's List, honors and awards. Languages. Bilingual is often a plus. We take this one for granted because a lot of us grew up bilingual, but employers really value that and will prioritize you if you are bilingual and they need someone who is. So definitely put that down. Interests, add your dream company, start following their posts, interact in those posts. Okay. Connections. It gives people a sense of familiarity when you connect with them in LinkedIn. The only thing I would say with that is definitely be discerning about who you add. There's hacking is rampant, and especially in LinkedIn with vulnerable people. So just make sure that you've met the person, or you know the person, or you've researched the person before you add them. Okay, moving on. Find your niche. This is important. First of all, don't believe the hype. I'm going to get a few of you are probably going to drop after this because it is not necessarily a popular belief, but this has been something, this entire slide, find your niche, is based on my experience in observing and in my interviewing people, and then also through my experience. So certifications, like I said, doesn't matter as much as you think. Depends on your end goal, though. Like I said, if you want DOD and they require that you have a certain certification, absolutely pursue that certification. but it's not, it doesn't, don't make that your end goal. Okay. Next, let your employer pay for your master's degree. If you're anything like me, you don't necessarily have financial support from anyone, from your family, from anyone else. You're on your own. You're working your way through college, right? So why should you have to put your master's degree out there? Get a job first. A lot of employers will support your continued education. They have money for that. Not every job cares about the suit and tie. I'm not wearing a suit and tie today. I'm wearing a tank top, as you just saw. My bosses come to meetings in hoodies. So it just depends on where you're working as to whether or not you need that suit and tie. So don't try to fit a mold. Let yourself be yourself. Okay. And to segue on that, conventional pathways are not always the best option. Think about it this way. Like I said earlier about how you want to apply directly on the website and then ping the person instead of going through, like LinkedIn jobs or something like that. You can find that the job is posted through LinkedIn jobs, but then go to the website. It's like everybody's driving on the freeway and they're sitting in rush hour traffic and they're not getting to their job. And you're taking the frontage road. You're like, I know about this frontage road. It's actually you bypass all that traffic. And guess what? Everybody's looking at you wishing they were you. Okay, so conventional pathway, don't worry about fitting in the mold. Okay. Next, establish your value. Bring something unique to the table. Set yourself apart. What can you offer? What do you have that few others have? This fits back into your branding. You want to emphasize that sort of thing. Like for instance, for me, it was my past theater background. People find that glamorous for some reason, and that I'm fearless and I'm a risk taker. Employers won't say it outright, but they do enjoy risk takers. Now, I don't mean risk like cyber risk. I mean that you will try things and be not afraid to fail because the more yes, I've failed a lot, but I've also succeeded a lot because I tried a lot. Okay. Next, you want to establish a focus. Don't apply for every single job, even if you don't know what you want to do, because conducting a disorganized and random search will also make you look like a candidate who does not have their act together. Consider a lesser desired job at a company which historically caters to lateral movement. This is a good way to establish a focus that maybe is setting yourself apart from the crowd as well. For instance, I didn't know anything about web application firewalls, but I saw a posting for web application firewalls and I said, I bet there aren't very many people applying for that. I'm going to learn that and I'm going to get into this company. And it worked. Okay. Next, keep records of your search. Keep a spreadsheet so that you don't accidentally apply for the same job 3 times or anything like that. Just stay organized. That's going to translate. All right. Next, the tailored resume. Why do I call it tailored resume instead of just the resume? Okay. First of all, you want to make a template. You want to make a template. It doesn't matter how long it is. You're going to put everything you know and have ever done on this template. And then next, when you're applying for a job, you want to tailor it to the job that you're applying for. Yes, this means you're going to have like 30 different resumes based on the job description, um, but you want to make sure that you do that. Transferable skills. We all have them. You worked making tamales with your grandpa, right? Suddenly you know how to collaborate. You have collaboration skills. You have creation skills. So learn how to transfer that. What not to do on your resume. Don't put stuff in white or clear to trigger more bot traffic or anything like that. They can detect that now, so don't do that. Don't lie because you're going to be eventually held accountable for what you can do. So don't put anything on there that you aren't confident you can do. And also don't have a single spelling error. That's obvious. Okay. Next, there's no one-page rule. Okay, this is from a time when recruiters used to read your resumes in person. They no longer do that. It can be helpful to have one just in case they ask for one, but this is no longer the standard. It doesn't matter how long your resume is any longer. And here's why. What recruiters don't want you to know. They use applicant tracking systems. And what these are is they scan your resumes when you submit them because they are receiving resumes in such a high volume nowadays that it basically separates out who is a good candidate from who's a lesser candidate. So here's a few hacks on how to do that. Use a simple font, save it as a rich text or a MS Word doc, and lose all those fancy graphics. Use standard headings such as education, work, experience, skills. Most systems are programmed to read work experience in the order of company name, title, and then dates of employment. So put that in order. Full words are better than acronyms, but why not use both and double your chances of hitting the ATS? Okay. Keywords and phrases, context is better than a list because the ATS systems actually have a way to detect, well, maybe they just plucked out these words from the job description and put them in a list so they would hit. So definitely, if it's something like, leveraged AWS, Amazon Web Systems, to, prioritize blah, 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 is better than just AWS. So after that, get a peer to review it, get a professional to review it. The more eyes on it, the better, because they're going to see things that you don't catch. And so will the recruiters. All right, moving on. Network, network, network. This is another super important thing, if not the best way to get a job. How to network face to face is best. Face establishes trust within people. There have been studies that the longer you have eye contact with someone, the more they trust you. So it gives them personal ownership over your success. Okay. And you're thinking, oh, but I hate networking and I hate in person. It's so awkward. Don't think of it as you trying to get ahead. Think of it as having a genuine conversation about shared interests. You think, oh, but I'm the one that needs a job and they're the one that has a job. Well, no, you're both industry professionals who have a shared passion. So don't go into the sell right away. What can you offer? Don't just take. Okay. And third of all, hand out those business cards. Business cards, super important. All right, where to network? Conferences. This is probably your top one. Conferences. You're doing the right thing by being here. Look for more conferences. I will have a list of where to network at the end of this talk that you can screenshot. That's another really good way. Meetups. Get a mentor. Get three. They can connect you with people. If they'll have their ear to the ground for you for opportunities. Um, I've had a few that have just been primo. Find an internship, even if it isn't exactly what you want to do, as long as it's something that's adjacent. You can learn all of those tools. You can learn about the software development life cycle. You can learn a lot and meet a lot of people by doing an internship, and it looks great on a resume. It tells them that you have work ethic. So do that. Volunteer. And finally, career expos. I'm not a big fan of career expos, I'm going to be honest with you, but there are some people who find value in them. I find that you get lost in the crowd and passed off a lot. But some people have found some value in that, so I added it in. All right, keep networking after you network. Oh, really, Leah? Okay, yes. Keep a connections list. Where you met, where they work, conversations you had with people, latest activity. This is going to be super essential for you, especially the longer that you're doing your job seeking process, because after a while, everything's going to get muddy. You're not really going to remember things. So if you have your little spreadsheet on all that, boom, where do I remember them from? Oh, yeah, XYZ. Now I have something to talk to them about. Oh, follow up on those conversations, reach out. Their former teachers, contacts, friends, thank them for the opportunities that they've been presenting you with. Ask them if there's anything available or have any contacts they can send you as a reference. Research your recruiter online solicitations before jumping in. Sometimes recruiters just Jackson Pollock splat and they just search the word cyber and anyone cyber, so you want to make sure that A, they're valid, and B, it's something that you want to do before you reply to them. Keep your ear to the ground. Oftentimes jobs are not advertised. Probably about 50% of the time, jobs don't even make it to the job listing. Um, a good hack for this is look for posts on LinkedIn. Just started new job at X. Oh, you started new job at X? What was your old job? I bet there's an opening. Let's find out. If you know someone who works at the same place as the person, you want to ping them first. Don't just throw your resume. That's a little tacky and desperate. So go ahead and make sure, send a little email inquiry, get a little information first. If you have friends at companies, these are really good ways to kind of circumvent traditional process. Okay. Job hunting, the approach, things to look for, job listings which mention tools that you're familiar with, job listings which seek your specific skill set. Okay, there are a million jobs out there. What do you want to do? It's not just about how you can help them, it's also about how they can help you. Salary, I don't want to quote a number, but I wouldn't look for anything under 80,000. And cybersecurity is not a saturated market, so you can get it. Quality of life, vacation hours, sick leave, company culture, location, growth opportunities. Do they let you work on other projects, attend conferences, Can you work hybrid from home? What are their COVID protocols? This is all important information to find out before you even send in your resume, because otherwise you're wasting everyone's time if it doesn't meet your expectations. Okay. Also, don't limit yourself. A lot of companies will say experience necessary, 3 years experience. That's kind of a lie. When they say necessary or requirements, it's really they're putting out what their ideal is. But don't let you limit yourself. Let them tell you that it's not enough. Okay. Don't eliminate yourself prematurely if you think you have what it takes, even if you can't do everything on the listing yet. You don't meet all of their criteria. If you think that you can do that job, absolutely submit for that job. Okay. And speaking of submitting for the job, use those internal references. If you have friends that are working at companies you're interested in, the higher up the better. Ask them to submit a recommendation for you. Apply directly to the website, like I said before. Ping the recruiter to look out for your resume after you submitted it. These are all ways to personalize your application and set you apart from the throngs of other people who are applying. Okay. Oh, yay. They want to meet you. How do you present yourself? Well, first of all, dress appropriately based on the company culture. If it's a suit and tie kind of place, do not show up in a hoodie. If it's a hoodie kind of place, I would even not recommend showing up in a suit and tie, because they are going to see how you fit in with their company culture. Film yourself practicing interviewing. What are your idiosyncrasies? What are your camera angles? What's your background? What's your lighting? Yeah. These are all important things. Framing, nobody wants to have an interview with this guy. Okay? Know your audience. Research your interviews and recruiter. Recruiters are your gateway. Oftentimes you have to have a screening interview with them before the real interviews even start. They will talk to your potential boss, and then subsequent interviews, they're going to be talking to each other about you. So don't think that these are isolated events. It all plays into the same thing. And another secret is recruiters make money if you get the job, but don't hound them. Think of them more like coworkers with a mutual benefit. Okay. And small talk leads them to thinking of you more of more than a resume, right? Your how do they fit into the company culture? So that's all very important. Next, your schedule. Flex your schedule in order to do the interview. This comes back to when I was saying do your extra credit. Maybe they say, can you meet on Tuesday? Well, I can't meet on Tuesday. I have this class. Well, what about Thursday? Well, I can't meet on Thursday. I have this class. What about Saturday? By the third time you start saying no to scheduling, they're going to start wondering if you actually want the job. So flex your schedule a little bit, but don't bend over backwards for it. Have your standards. Okay. Always schedule extra buffer time for yourself around your interview beforehand to get yourself centered, review your subject matter, clean up, set up your equipment, make sure everything's ready to go. And then after the interview, so that you can review what happened in the interview, take notes, review how you can improve for next time, and decompress. Okay. And next of all, don't schedule your dream job first. Use your interviews as practice to hone your skills for the big ones. So I highly recommend definitely looking for jobs where you're like, yeah, I'm not really sure, yes or no. Use that interview as practice. You don't have to say yes, even if they give you an offer. Okay. And just like any other skill, the more practice you get at it, the better you are. Um, so just keep that in mind. Don't say, I've always wanted to work for Amazon. I'm going to make that my number one interview, because you'll bomb it. You will fail. Um, Okay, interview, the pregame. First of all, I don't have this on the slide, but always have a paper and pen to take notes. You're going to want to take notes about the people, about what their hobbies are, what they do. Uh, Lots of notes, 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 notes. If your interview's online, prepare the software far ahead of time. They're going to email you. They're going to say, we want this tool for the code review section. Go download it, test it way in advance of your interview, because there's nothing more nerve-wracking than trying to download it right before the interview and having it fail, and then you don't have time to center yourself, right? Get your workstation set up ahead of time. Have your LinkedIn link ready to give them at the end. If your interview's in person, have a nice professional folder. Don't show up with a crumpled wad of anything, or even a paper folder. They're like $5. You can get even the little plastic ones. Carry a few extra resumes. Make sure they're the same one as the tailored resume for the interview that you're going to, just in case, they ask you for another resume. You have it on hand. You're prepared. That shows them that you're prepared. Okay. Bring your business cards in a nice case, and hand them out. How many interviews should you expect? Anywhere from 4 to 8, I would say, is pretty typical. When I interviewed for Amazon Lab, I actually had 8 interviews. I had the 4 interviews, and then the all-day interview was another 4. So don't think that the interview is going to be a one and done. Be ready for to level up each time. Okay. Interview, get your head in the game, mindset. So ownership, you are there to interview them as well. Okay. So know your worth. Don't be intimidated. Ask questions. You want to know if this job is going to serve you. Are you going to be happy in the job? You might be desperate to get a job, but think about it this way. Think about it like dating. Are you going to, date the abusive guy just to be in a relationship? No. So why would you do that with a job? Okay, persistence. Use your discouragement as fuel. Um, don't don't let it discourage you. Right? You are going to fail at things, and if you turn that into that growth mindset we were talking about earlier, then suddenly you grow from it. Be prepared for any question related to the job description, regarding your resume, um, answers to common questions, subtly quote the job description. Um, Make sure you study the resume that you tailored for that interview. If you're doing an online interview, I would suggest even having your resume on hand with notes written on it, if if it comes to that. Answers to common questions. So at the end of this talk, I'm going to give you a list that you can screenshot of common questions that are often asked in interviews. Have an answer prepared for each. It's a lot of work up front, but let me tell you, it's way better than getting asked a question and freezing up in the actual interview, which happened to me in that PowerPoint. All right, the interview, soft skills. Do remember their name. The sweetest word in the English language to each person is their own name. So remember their name, say their name. People will feel more attached to you when you do that. Show your personality. What do you have to bring to the table? They don't just want Leah bot who knows how to do everything and is super boring and won't be any fun to work with, right? So show your personality. Bring something to the table. Find a mutually beneficial common ground. Listen to what your interviewers find important. Don't push your agenda. Actually, just have a conversation. Like I said before, you're there to see if they have what you need also. Use that business speak we talked about. Be professional. You don't want to be all up in their business talking to them like that. And I'm not saying that that's bad. That's fine. You can talk to your friends that way. But there is a certain standard of business speak, even in casual workplaces, that kind of elevates you a little bit. So keep it positive. Keep them engaged. Make eye contact, even if you are online, like I'm doing right now. A lot of people just look down, but when you make eye contact, it establishes trust. It makes them want to listen to what you're saying. Okay. Don't stay quiet for too long. It's super awkward, right? No, nobody wants that. Okay? Don't interrupt. Don't fidget. Don't overgeneralize. All easier said than done, but that's why you practice, practice, practice. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go through this slide, but I felt it was important to mention the STAR method. It's tried and true. Essentially, it's a systematic way of answering a question to present you in the best light possible. When they ask you a question, you answer in these 4 categories: the situation, then the task, then the action you took, and the result. Um, and if you will need to practice this as well. All right, the interview itself, you made it, you're in. Okay, what do? Focus on what you learned, make the experience enjoyable. Use that business speak again, subtly name drop. Again, I mean be subtle by it, okay? A good way to do this is to mention it in passing while talking about something else. For instance, you all know that I interviewed at Amazon Web, or at Amazon devices, because I mentioned something that I did while interviewing there. Okay, so you can do that too. You can say, oh, when I was talking to, Anissa about, my experience doing Python, boom, you subtly name drop not only a person they know, but you also name dropped a skill you have. Okay. You can do this with a friend who referred you, or someone you know that's on the team, or leadership, or the recruiter if you have a good rapport with them. These are all good things to do subtly. You can also subtly drop other reputable interviews. Oh yeah, when I was scheduling my interview with Northrop Grumman, we were talking about that. Boom, suddenly they know Northrop Grumman is interested in you. It increases your stock, lets them know where you stand in the workforce. It's also something you can do with recruiters to an interview in the first place. Okay. Next, and this is just always in your life, always don't talk poorly about anyone. Talk about your strengths instead. If the conversation starts going in a negative direction, turn it around to positive. Learned that one the hard way too. I have some good stories for you if you are interested. Okay, at the end of the interview, ask, mention anything that you'd like to highlight if it wasn't covered. And definitely always thank them for their time and express enthusiasm. And another slick way to subtly tell them that you belong on the team, if you feel that you do, is you can say something like, "Thank you so much for your time. I had such a great talking to you. Great time talking to you. I really look forward to exploring more about that, segmentation that we talked about when I work with you." Boom, when I work with you. Okay. If you have any follow-up questions, ask them, how would you prefer I contact you? This tells them that you're not a one and done kind of person. You have follow through. This also respects their desire and how they would like to be contacted. It shows that it's not all me, me, me. Okay. Give them your business card or LinkedIn on the way out. Okay. After the interview, that interview's done. Guess what? There might be another one. So, first of all, every interview always follow up with a thank you note or an email, thank them for their time. Some businesses even wait to see how many of their candidates or who follows up because it tells them as a test whether or not you have that follow through. So, if you think that you just did the interview and you're done and you're waiting for them to come back to you, don't wait for them. Tell them the things that you enjoyed. Follow up. It's super important. Okay. Say they want another round of interviews with you. Get specifics from the person who is asking you on what you need to prepare for that next interview. Ask who you'll be interviewing with so you can research them. What would you suggest I work on to increase my chances in the next round? These are all valid questions that they won't hold against you. It shows ambition, it shows interest. Okay, say you don't get the job. A lot of times you won't. I know there's a lot of frustration. I mean, I sent out so many resumes, went on so many interviews. Um, Even if you're hot stuff, you will get rejected. Use it to learn, use it to level up. You're not going to fit in everywhere. It's okay to ask for feedback. Are there any other roles you think I might fit in better with the team? Maybe they aren't, maybe their mind isn't there, but as soon as you ask that question, they go, oh yeah, now that you mention it, we do have this, messaging team is looking for someone. We think you might be really good on that since you're so focused on email security, something like that. Where would you recommend I focus my efforts next time? It's fine to ask for feedback. It will help you in the end. You will hit up against some people who don't want to give you the, don't want to spend the time, and that's fine. You don't take it personally. Um, but any chance you have to really level up is good. Okay. If you get the offer, yay, you got the offer. Okay. Uh, Make sure the salary meets your standards. Make sure that it's what you're asking for. Don't sell yourself short. If they offer you something lower than what you want, don't be afraid to ask for a little bit more. Now, don't overshoot. Stay within reason. But and especially if it's your first job, I would recommend somewhere in that common range. Start date. Find out when you start. Who should you expect to hear from for the official paperwork so you can keep an eye out and return the paperwork ASAP? You don't want um, any sort of conflict going on. You want to just get it done. If you have to leave your current job first, as I know a lot of us are working our way through school, it's common practice to allow time for this. Businesses will understand. So I even suggest giving yourself a little buffer to reset and prep and get your head in the game for this new job. It is, don't be ashamed to ask for a little bit of time. Ask questions about other things that you might find important, work from home situation, COVID protocols, all the other stuff we mentioned earlier. Okay, well, hey, congratulations, you got the job. And so here are those common interview questions I promised you. Time to take a little screenshot. I'll give you a couple minutes. I'm not going to go through them, but I would recommend writing a response out for yourself, or at least an outline to each of these questions, because these are probably the most commonly asked questions. And I can tell you that I've been asked every single one of these questions. And be careful about putting the same answer for different questions. What happened to me when I did that in one interview is they asked me one question, and then they asked me another question that I had the same answer for. So then I had to make up something on the spot. So try to think of something unique for each of them. I know it's going to be an exercise. It's a lot of homework, but it's helpful in the end. Okay. Finally, I have a few resources. When I share this, you can go ahead and click on them. I put, interview specific information, cybersecurity specific information, the OWASP top 10, super important to know as a cybersecurity. Everybody talks about them. It's basically a standard. Meetups, you can go to those. WISE's Women in Cybersecurity. Meetup.com has a lot. Women's Cyber Jutsu. I'm a mentor with them, and they are looking for mentors if you want to mentor people, but they also are a good resource for getting information. Conferences and events. This is not an exhaustive list. You just have to Google. Okay. And finally, any questions?
So we're opening it up for questions right now. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you and bring you to the front.
Hi.
Riley.
What would be some reasons why you didn't get hired? You said even if you were top notch, you wouldn't fit in everywhere. What does that mean? You don't fit in?
Well, it's very, so job interviews are very un unique to the company. So there's no one size fits all answer to that, but I can say that a few of the things that I've run up against are that maybe my personality doesn't mesh necessarily with the company culture. Um, Something like you didn't quite uh, know you didn't quite give the right answer on something, or they're looking for something specific that they thought maybe based on your resume you would have, but turns out you wouldn't. For instance, ultimately, what didn't land me the job with Amazon was a secure code review, which I was told would be in the language of my choice. So I requested Python, and then when I got there, it was in JavaScript. So I had not, there are unexpected things that will come up that maybe your strength isn't there, and that's something that they really value. So it just depends on where you're working as to what the reason is. It could be something as they are just conducting interviews as a formality, and the guy's nephew is going to get the job. It's illegal, but it happens, right? So I'd say instead of again, and then this goes back to that growth mindset. Instead of saying like what was bad about it, you can really look and you can say, okay, well, if they're not going to give me the feedback on what I can improve on, let's see, how did they react when I answered this question? How did they react when I answered this question, right? So when you're in the interview, it's not all showing off and it's not all taking. You're also clocking in your head what was successful and what wasn't. Um, and it's going to be unique per interview, which is why you need to go on a bunch to kind of gauge. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anyone else?
I don't bite. I promise. And don't worry about running out of time. I know we're supposed to end at 3:15, but I'm fine going over. I want to make sure I pay this forward to anybody um, that needs it.
We have plenty of time, so take your time.
Yeah.
Okay. Ron says, not a question, but +3 for MHA references, DDLC references, and the offline, yeah, crying is cool and okay. Definitely.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ron.
Did you guys know that scientifically it has been proven that your tears of sadness or frustration actually contain chemicals in them that tell your brain, that basically soothe your brain and calm you down. So when you are super frustrated or super angry, it's actually good to cry because that tears are your body's mechanism of cheering yourself up on a subconscious
Any additional questions?
I have one quick question. So I had been working with a company for about 5 years, and I interviewed for a higher up position, and I had practice. I went ahead and talked to my other peers and kind of made connections and talked to everyone that was going to be there on the board that was interviewing for the position that I was applying for. So then when I finally interviewed for it, I felt like I answered all the questions thoroughly. I answered all the questions with certifications that I've had. And then when it came down to it, I didn't get the position, but they let me know, not in the correct way, if that makes sense. I felt like they told everybody that interviewed for the position before they told me. So I found out from someone else that I didn't get the position because they forgot to tell me. So I felt like that was kind of unprofessional. But I guess my question here would be, how thorough do you have to be when answering questions? Because they said that that's where I messed up in the interview, that I didn't give them enough information when answering my questions that they asked.
Okay. Well, first of all, you probably dodged a bullet. If you weren't happy with the way that they handled the response, then you won't be happy with the way that they handle your employment. So dodged a bullet a little bit in that way. I know it's disappointing to not get something that you want. But this goes back to that slide of when I talked about specificity and not being general. So you really want to find data and metrics to support your answers. And I think this also goes back to preparing your answers ahead of time and framing it in that STAR method that I talked about previously. So because what happens is if you are just answering a question off the cuff, a lot of times our brain goes, ah, let's get this thing and make it fit. If we generalize X, Y, and Z, then it'll fit the answer, right? And it's not necessarily going to be what they're looking for. Another thing to take into consideration is that if you have an idea of what they're looking for and you have a story, try to narrate that story in a way that it demonstrates certain points of transferable skills, things that you did that not only demonstrate your success or how you overcame failure in this specific thing, but also how it would tie into the job that you're applying for. And again, if they, you probably dodged a bullet.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
I have another question.
Hmm?
Okay, you mentioned about the salary. So say you wanted 85,000, right? And then they were offering 80,000. Then when you went back to them and talked to them, would you shoot for 90,000 and hope they met you in the middle, or would you start? Like, would you say like, hey, I need 85,000?
Okay, so salary negotiation is an entire art form in and of itself, which I don't have a lot of experience doing because I got offered a significantly higher uh, salary than I was expecting. However, it is good to frame it in a way of, I was really hoping for something in the 85 to 90,000 range. Okay, you can give them a range instead of an exact number. And that way, if they say, okay, well, we can do 85,000, they're shooting at the bottom of yours. They don't know that's actually your target number. I would recommend talking to Wendy Ortiz Contreras about this because she is a master at salary negotiation. Um, but it is important
Okay.
to have a standard for your salary.
Well, I have a question. Earlier, you mentioned, to apply for a job even when they ask for like years of experience and you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, let's say that you actually get an interview. How would you prepare yourself for the interview?
Know your worth. Okay. When they say they want years of experience, what they're really saying is we want to know that you can do the job. Years of experience, what that proves is that you understand the tools that you're going to be working with, that you understand collaboration, that you understand the development life cycle, that you understand processes. If you understand all of that stuff, then you don't have to mention that you haven't had 3 years of experience. And Is that sort of what you're asking?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just say, you know, like let's say they ask some kind of technical question. I'm sorry, I have my son screaming in the back, but it's just how would I be ready? You know, how would I know that I'm ready for that? That's why I normally don't apply, because I want to, you know, I look for jobs and then I see that they ask for years of experience, or they say that you have to have your bachelor's degree, and right away I just, you know, turn away and I don't apply. So
Yeah,
that's
don't do that. If you think you got, you know, if you think you will do a good job, even if you don't know the material, and this has been my experience because I've done a lot of interviews, you know, for NBC Universal, conducting interviews to see other candidates who are joining my team. And if they don't, if this is one of my memorize this. Um, I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I would be happy to go and research it and come back to you with the answer to that question. That tells them that you are not afraid to admit when you don't know something, which is super important because that's how you grow, and B, that you have follow through and ambition. And those things, those soft skills are way more important because when you start the job, they can teach you that tool, they can teach you how to do that thing, but they can't teach you to have ambition and enthusiasm and follow through, you know. So I would say don't get in your own way as far as that goes. If you have anxiety, if you have imposter syndrome, which yeah, I have. I mean, we all constantly battle it because we're told from a young age you have to be humble and you know all of these things. And I found humility doesn't get you a promotion. Um, so, and another thing you can do is after you say, you know, I'd be happy to research that. However, I do have this skill, which runs in parallel to the skill you're asking about, and here's how I can bring that into what you're asking about, right? So you can pivot. Does that make sense?
oh yes, yes, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you so much. This is a very amazing presentation.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. I also want to say something that just popped into my head about that. I have a bachelor's of arts, and a lot of companies don't. They're like, oh, it's not of sciences. So just put bachelor's on your degree. If you don't have bachelor's degree, you put your experience, put your hands-on experience. Tools are something that are often underemphasized. If you just dedicate yourself to learning a different tool each week and digging in, suddenly you have Burp Suite and Jira and you know all these different you know tools that are important. So then you can say I have hands-on experience with XYZ. Um, and hands-on experience doesn't mean you have to have it in a workplace environment. You can, you know, be hobbying with it at home. You can do bug bounties. You can, all of that is hands-on experience. If you put your hands in the tool and you play with it, you have hands-on experience.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, also you mentioned that after you get your bachelor's, that you would go to work and have them pay for your master's. I was kind of planning just like do my master's,
You can do that.
but
I
is
just
it
don't.
better not to?
No, I don't want to say one is better than the other. This is a highly personal choice. I'm just saying, in my experience, for me, when I graduated, okay, you're not supposed to talk about money, but I was making 13,000 a year, okay, when I was in college, and it is hard to put yourself through school, especially a master's program with that intensity and work at the same time. Um, and pay for all of that while you're just trying to do your life. So if money is a restriction, I'm saying that a lot of workplaces offer that as a resource to help pay for your schooling because they value continued education. If you are interested in just getting your master's, getting it done with, or using that as leverage to get a better and higher paying job right out the gate, which, by the way, to mention, your starting salary is going to be your baseline for the rest of your career. So the higher that starting salary is, the better. If you have a master's, you're probably more likely to get paid higher. Um, Unless you have the demonstrated ability to have the knowledge set that someone with their master's has. Um, So if it's going to make you more comfortable to go out into the workforce to get your master's degree first, and you don't mind acquiring that debt, which I guarantee you will be able to pay off if you pursue cybersecurity because it is not a low-paying industry. It is not a saturated market, and they pay you what you're worth, which is very nice. So I am not recommending one over the other. I'm just saying you can use that as a reference if you find money to be a hardship, which I did.
Okay. Thank you.
And I see we got a question from Kim Young who says, do you think industry certification is better than getting a master's degree?
Uh, there's a lot of debate in the cybersecurity world about the value of degrees, about the value of certifications, and the answers and the value is as unique as all of our faces. Everybody has a different opinion on it. So it really depends on where you're working. And one little sneaky boots way of figuring that out is say you want to go work for Northrop Grumman. Go on LinkedIn, see what the people who work for Northrop Grumman at the level that you want to work, what do they have? Do they have certifications? Do they have degrees? Because that's going to give you a good gauge of what they're looking for. Um, I can't say definitively. I can say from my experience that I don't have a master's and I don't have certifications. I could have them if I wanted to spend the money to do them, but I feel like where I'm at right now, my knowledge of them is good enough for the job that I need to do. That's not necessarily the case with all employers. So it's very it just depends on what you want to get. Do you want to, out of that master's degree, are you hoping to land a good first job, or are you hoping to have continued knowledge that you can then bring into your current job? Industry certifications are great for applied knowledge they tend to be a little bit more generalized, so if you get a job somewhere, you're probably going to be working with specific tools that maybe that certification doesn't even test on. So it's hard to say what's better or what's worse. It's as personal as our faith, and everybody has a different opinion on it. But my experience has been that if you have the knowledge and the confidence, then the certifications, the master's degrees, those are just icing on the cake.
Anything else?
Sorry, I couldn't say
Anyone
yes or
else?
no to that.
Yeah,
I know.
I have one more. I have one more question. This is about regarding the idea that there is no one-page limit to resumes. Can you get more in depth with that?
Sure. So a lot of times you'll hear people saying you have to, reduce your resume down to one page. Um, but in doing so, sometimes you're leaving out valuable information that might be important for the recruiters to know. Um, so if it's between putting down your experience and your knowledge or making the resume one page, make it multiple. Um, the only reason that resumes were once recommended to be one page is when each resume was personally reviewed by a human and they didn't want to be spending a long time on, a 3-page resume. They've got to glance at this resume, look for those keywords, look for the experience, move on, right? But now we have software that does that. We have those ATS. You can Google applicant tracking systems. They don't care about how long your resume is. They're just reading the content.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
So let's say you have a lot of experience in one area. Like, for example, I have some experience in psychology, but I decided that that wasn't what I wanted to ultimately end up doing. So now I'm studying the field of computer technology. My question is, when applying for jobs and constructing a resume and even going in for the interview process, how do you word your past experience in another field in a way that is relevant to the field that you are applying for?
That's a great question. I would say in your case, the first thing that came to mind is you understand social engineering techniques, right? So that's something that you can bring to the table. You don't you don't have to completely throw it out. Like I had this other career in theater before I came here. And it goes back to those transferable skills. You know, if you put psychology as something that you've studied, or you know, people will look at that. If you work at McDonald's, your transferable skill, think about the things that you did in more general terms. Okay, so it's okay. So how do I articulate this? Don't throw it out the window. All of the experience you have previously has some element to it of value that you can bring to the team. And what that is depends on what you want to bring to the team and what you want to throw out the window. So I'd say in your case, psychology is a really good one because it can be used not only in social engineering but also understanding behavioral patterns. It's really good for I would say both red and blue teaming, because red teaming, because you can say, oh, you know, X, Y, and Z are usually, this website is leveraging deprecated software, and I know the vulnerabilities for that because I know that these guys are focusing on their higher level properties over here, and they're not looking at this lower level property, right? Psychologically, you know where their focus is going to be. Or on that, from the enterprise perspective, the psychology behind it, knowing that you know, log4j, for instance, so seeing this vulnerability in the actual code, and saying, okay, well, I know that guys who are writing code are usually not trained in security, so let's just iterate through the properties and see, you know, and you're bringing that tool into it. If you're a mathematician, look at lower level, look at layer one kind of stuff. You know, if your jam is video games, then look at layer seven. You know, take the stuff that you already know and apply security to it. It's such a big industry, and it's such still the wild west out there that you can make your own job. Basically, it's out there somewhere.
Excellent.
Thank you. That answers my question perfectly.
Great. Oh, hi, May. Hi.
I'm not sure if anyone's interested. It is 3:30, so we've gone 15 minutes over. We have used and abused Leah so much today, but we really appreciate her time. Thank you so much. And we're going to get ready for our 4 o'clock closing ceremony. However, I think we're getting ready. I think we're going to open it up early just so that people that still have questions or want to kind of mingle like we did through the lunch networking, that would be available to everyone. So we'll get ready to switch over. But we know if you need to take a break, got a little time. So we appreciate that. And thank you again, Leah.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending. I think it's uh, it's an honor to be able to pay this forward. So I appreciate you all for coming to this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.